Hey guys, welcome to our channel. So today I want to talk about how you can buy land with no credit, good credit, bad credit, bankruptcy. You're not going through a bank, you're not getting a credit check, and that's with owner financing. So this is the best way for somebody like us that doesn't have a lot of spare money sitting around to become landowners. Now we were able to purchase 40 acres through owner financing. And that's where we'll be moving our farmstead to, from where we're currently set up on my in-laws' property or at Cam's parents' place. So we're lucky enough that we have that space available to us, but there's only so much we can do when we're being let to use somebody else's land. So we set out looking for ourselves. We had in mind what we wanted and what we needed. We needed a larger parcel of land, so minimum 20 acres for us, because we are into livestock. Animals are our passion. That's what we love doing. I am not super great at gardening, so that's a big learning curve for me. But something we're going to take on, and you'll see that throughout our videos as well. The biggest thing for us was, like I said, we didn't have a lot of money to invest in land. So we were able to find our land online. We did unfortunately buy sight unseen, just because of issues with COVID and travel restrictions, things like that. So that's a little scary. I don't recommend going that route, but it is an option if you're stuck. We lucked out because we're raising livestock, we weren't super particular because we are trying different methods with feeding practices. We grow our own fodder. And things like that, so we weren't super concerned. Anyways, first place to start, look online. It's the easiest. You're probably watching me on a mobile device or on a computer. You could be Googling that right now. I'm gonna add some links down below, possibly up here as well if I can figure it out, or in the comment section. I'll put them everywhere I can. But those links and those searches are really going to help you. Don't settle for the first one you find. Keep looking. I think I found the one we bought through on like page 6. Most counties, double check with them to make sure that there's no liens on the land. Double check your restrictions. Don't trust real estate agents or the people you're buying from, not because they're shady or anything like that, but do your own research. Trust yourself. They could have misprinted something. Some of these places deal with a lot of different properties, so they might have got their zoning wrong. Check for yourself. Most county offices are happy to help you when you call in. I've never faced an issue when I'm calling to clarify some zoning or some permitting issues. Most would rather help you pre-hand than deal with somebody that's angry or not so easy to deal with down the road. So that's something to keep in mind there. Sorry about the lighting. I'm still figuring that stuff out. So big thing, do the research. Another option is to go through a tax sale. So there's a few different variations of these. From what I found, one was a tax deed sale and some were tax lien sales. So there are different restrictions with that. Some of them you're buying what the tax holder owes. So sometimes there's a longer waiting period there. You wouldn't want to build or invest in the property because they still have time to reclaim the land. Others, you do get ownership through the county right away. So again, that's something to talk to the county about itself. Keep in mind that you're going to be paying a higher interest rate. I believe our interest rate right now is at about 10%. However, we don't have any penalties for early payments. So we could pay off our land a lot faster, still keep that interest rate down, and not worry. Right now, because we're trying to save up to get moved, buy stock, we aren't putting that huge payment down, but we are hoping to pay it down a little bit more before we get moved in. Another thing, talk to the people that you're buying from. If they don't seem like cooperative, willing, helpful people, maybe steer clear. Check out your land. Know what you're needing from your land. If you are dead set on having water, whether it be a creek, a lake, a pond, a river, check into those things. Check into your water rights, check into different permitting issues. I know some of the first places we looked for land, I looked further into permitting and zoning and restrictions and found that we wouldn't be able to live on our land in a camper while we build our home. Or if we did, the permits were really expensive and had to be renewed so often that it just wasn't feasible. So for us, that was a big red flag. We started looking elsewhere. We were actually able to get 40 acres for $8,500. That's under $10,000 for 40 acres. The reason that we were able to do that is it's fairly isolated, which for us and our backgrounds and where we're coming from, not a big deal. We're used to having to commute to larger centers anyhow. So we aren't worried about that aspect. We kind of like it in a way, because that 40 acres is surrounded by 1,800 acres plus of Department of Interior or Bureau of Land Management lands. So not only do we have our land to grow our animals on, we actually have over 1,800 acres to go trail riding on and go quadding on and have some fun with. So that's a huge perk. The water wasn't a huge issue for us. Seeing that there was no well on our land, no stream, no pond, no anything like that, I did contact the local towns or communities around me to see what the water rate is for us to be able to haul our own. Now it was the nearest larger town, it's $10 per 1,000 gallons, which to me, from having lived up north where we had to haul our water, is very feasible. It's not very expensive. There are free sources for water too with a lot of the smaller towns. At a lot of the fairgrounds, old schools, you can actually go fill up your tanks for free. So that's always an option as well. IBC totes, used water tanks, things like that aren't crazy expensive to buy. You can actually find them quite cheap. Investing in a good quality potable water tank, good idea. Something we're working on as well. However, we do have our fifth wheel camper, so we are pretty comfortable with supplying our water for ourselves and maintaining that tank. Another thing to look at is whether you are allowed to do your own construction. So for us, Cam is quite confident working with larger equipment, so we'll be digging our own septic, our own pond, things like that. So you do want to check and make sure that you are allowed to do that in the county you're purchasing in. A lot of places, especially when it comes to septic, things like that, you have to contract or hire that out to contractors that are licensed to do that in that area. Make sure there's no liens on the land. You can check that. I believe you can do a title search to check that. Usually the county assessor's office can let you know that as well. You really want to check into that. Most, especially if you're going through a company, most of them have bought this land at a tax sale, so they have already looked into that prior to making that purchase themselves. So you're usually fairly safe, but it's worth it to check out, make sure there's nothing holding you back. Another thing, look into floodplains. Last thing you want, especially if you're an avid gardener, is to buy a bunch of swampland. To people that are neighboring you, because we couldn't get down to our land, and we're actually 17 hours away. I talked to people in the local community and I got to know a lot of them through social media, and that was a great opportunity for me to get a feel for what the dynamics in that community are like. And one of them actually offered to go out to our land, take video. He actually crashed his drone, so I felt really terrible. He didn't even want to get charged for it. He wanted to go out and play with his equipment. So get to know people. The best thing you can do is ask others. Most people are going to be happy to help you. Be aware if there's other farmers in the area. If you're planning on going organic and you're only going to be buying an acre, look into what's being grown around you or what's being done around you, because that might impact what you can and can't do. I believe with most organic certification, there's a large, I think it's 200 and some odd feet, that you have to be back from another field that isn't certified. So do that due diligence. Just like you expect to do your own thing, expect that others might too. Another big thing is look into the cost of utilities. Cost varies so greatly, it's not even funny. The land we bought, you can see power poles and stuff like that in the distance, really not too far away, but the cost would be astronomical for us to have them bring in a power line. And we had kind of wanted to go off grid anyhow, just so we can eliminate those monthly bills and not have that worry. We're comfortable with setting up our own solar system. We're used to working with generators, and we're used to finding alternative resources and sources. And we'll go through all that in different videos as you join us on our journey and getting set up. But look into that. If you are not wanting to be off grid, you need to check that out, because that might make something that seems like a really great bargain all of a sudden become this huge financial nightmare for you. Another thing is some places don't allow you to legally go off grid, so you need to look into that. The last thing you want to be doing is setting up your homestead or farmstead and being hit with fines and tickets and cease and desist orders. Not something you want to deal with. So again, think of all these things. We'll have a series going on talking about how to plan your homestead or farmstead, what things you need to ask yourself to get this planned out right, and not to be making any mistakes with your purchase. We're lucky enough that we both come from agricultural backgrounds of different varieties, so we already have a pretty clear idea of what we want and need and what we can work with, and what we can get away with not having. I love water. We bought land in the high desert. There's not a whole ton of water around where we bought, but we will be either putting an in-ground pool in or digging ourselves a pond. So I need that. And I think our dogs like it. But those are things to think about. We'll go through all that. But again, start now. Look for your land. We had looked at the same property for several months before we decided to purchase. We did. I found a lot of properties in the area were selling just after we bought ours. So I think we kind of got lucky with what we got. Clear roadway into it. We're happy. But get out. You don't have to be rich to buy land. You may have to move further away than you want. There is the option to build up a homestead, resell it to somebody else, and use that money to move close to where you want. What are you willing to sacrifice? For us, we'd rather put sweat equity in and keep our initial costs down. So that is how we were able to buy land for under $300 an acre. I think it was $240 an acre. So if we can do it, you can too. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe. I'll point wherever, but I'm not sure where all those buttons show up. I only ever watch on my phone, and they're never where people are pointing. So feel free to comment, ask questions. We'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. And keep an eye out for those other videos we'll be adding soon.